I want to welcome everybody to today's edition of the Daily Cheat Sheet. We're joined by a regular motley crew of Golan Ramraz and Margus Mend, the dude Stern. Right off the bat, Mend, I want to get into something that's extremely important. Whatever your agreements or disagreements on Trump's policies, foreign or domestic, he takes interview after interview. He was in the Oval Office today taking requests from everybody, and that was something that was missing for 4 years, obviously, with Biden, but he never gets the credit for doing that. It takes a lot of guts.
Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up because I believe it was yesterday, the reporter that wrote the book together with Jake Tapper on the cover up of Biden's decline, which Jake Tapper was complicit in that cover up, was on MSNBC. And the hosts of MSNBC, instead of drilling into their failings and how they helped that cover up, their response was, "Do you think it's fair that Trump is not getting the same scrutiny for his cognitive decline as Biden's and what's going on with the Biden cognitive decline scandal?" So if you want to take a look at the difference between the two presidents, one will sit down for a 3 hour unscripted interview with a podcaster, and the other one was hiding in a basement for 4 years. And the media, their response to this is we should be calling out the guy who's willing to sit down for impromptu interviews at any time. We should think, let's smear him with the same libel that we covered up for the previous administration.
Call it Trump libel, but you raise a great point. And Golan, to Men's point, these reporters, when you look at somebody like Bill Maher, who, for God knows how long, has bagged and ragged on Trump, and he got an invitation to the White House to meet him. It's sort of a fascinating thing, these people who claim Trump's mental acuity or whatever they want to claim. Trump would give them access. He would give them interviews if they wanted it. What is stopping them? Do they is it they won't get invited to the party if they interview Trump?
Look, I will start with this. I don't want to do it as a comparison. Obviously, we all know, even everyone on the other side and everyone on this side, everyone everywhere is admitting Biden was cognitively in decline. Clear as day, no problem. Every time he went on teleprompter, it was, not just because he had a stutter, as some people like to say, but there was a lot of confusion, the lid always being put on by noon, pre-scripted answers, calling on people that he had written on his hand, all of that stuff, right? Okay, I'm not comparing it to that. Let's just focus on Trump and his relationship with the press. Trump constantly is going out there and giving raw, unfiltered access to the public. He is sitting down with hostile reporters. That's the crazy part. He could just go into his own echo chamber, his own bubble, and just give one interview after another where they're giving him softball questions, as was happening on a regular basis, like when Kamala, for instance, was running for office. Here, he doesn't do that. He goes into the lines then. And by the way, I'm not even saying he's always giving the greatest answers and he's always the best guy. He's not a superhero. But on this particular question, it's a ridiculous sentiment to think this guy is in cognitive decline. He can't speak. He can't this. He sat down, whether you liked it or not. He sat down with Joe Rogan. He had a conversation like a human being, 4 hours, unedited, unfiltered. He does it on a regular basis. He does it in areas that are hostile. He goes up against people who are there solely to vilify him and still does it. It's a silly thing to pretend like it, just because we are saying this happened on one side, everyone has to say it happened on the other. This is the I'm rubber, you're glue kind of bullshit that makes people not trust the media.
Mind you, he didn't even use the restroom. Sort of an amazing, amazing thing to go 3 hours and 20 minutes at the age of 78 or 79 years old. I don't know many 78 or I don't know many 50-year-olds that could be the same could be said for. So let's go into what he discussed in the Oval Office today. And one of them is apparently he's not very happy with Putin. So Golan, he gave Putin a 2 week deadline. Red line today starts 2 weeks. It is Wednesday, May 28th. let's start the countdown of how he will proceed with Putin. And what are your thoughts on that?
I will say right now, this feels like it's just in stagnation. I I really I really want to believe that there is some plan here. And Mend, I'm sure you'll tell me why I'm wrong. I really want to believe that this is him being a strong man and he's given his red line. It feels a little bit like when Obama was like, "That's my red line." Then they crossed it and he was like, "I meant this over here is my red line." Like that thing. What is the red line here? Putin is publicly calling him out, saying, "You don't understand what's actually happening in the region." He said that today as a response to Trump's tweet that were truth, rather, that we talked about yesterday. He's basically saying, "I'm souring on a guy that I thought I could control, that I thought I had a friendship with, I said I would be able to finish this thing up in a week because Putin listens to me," and all of that. This 2 week action he's giving Putin on Ukraine, what is he actually threatening? What is actually going to happen? Is this meant to be something where, besides him saying, "I'm disappointed in you," like a parent that is scolding a child, this feels like weak tea. And I don't know if Putin is going to bow to this kind of lip service, which is really what it feels like. Men, tell me what I'm missing.
Here we go. Okay, so you got to frame this entire thing through the lens of Ukraine has zero leverage. They cannot produce enough military equipment on their own. Obviously, we need to supply them with all of it. They don't even have enough conscripts. They're now offering new recruits $20,000 to join for their first year, 1 year of service. The veterans that have been battling this thing for many years make that amount in an entire year. So there's internal conflict going on with that. You have the equivalent of a bear, Russia, and a pipsqueak little mouse, which is Ukraine and Zelensky. The little mouse is all emboldened because America, the lion, came in and has been helping him. And he's standing behind the lion, screaming taunts at the giant bear with his big claws. And the lion says, "Hey, step back, shut up, stop talking for a minute," admonishes him publicly. And then we turn to the bear and we say, "Look, we want to give you an off ramp. We want to help you end this thing. You're losing a lot of men." But it's worth noting that Russia's been on a war footing as far as their military technology industrial complex for the last 10 years. Russia produces more military equipment per year than the entire European Union produces in 10 years. So they have more soldiers. They're not running out. They're recruiting something like 50,000 soldiers a month. Ukraine, I think, is only able to get about 40,000 a month. Russia is winning. So what do you do in a situation like this? You be nice and give them an off ramp, but you also know that you have a giant stick that you're hiding behind your back. Trump has that giant stick, and he's saying, "I don't want to have to bring it out. Let's do this." And he's really giving him an opportunity to get out of this mess.
Can
If
you tell me
Putin
what the
doesn't,
stick is? Can you tell me
yeah,
what the stick is? Because
absolutely.
he said 2 weeks, but he didn't say, "or else I dot dot dot."
Absolutely. One is economic sanctions. We sanction any country that buys anything from Russia. Number two, he'll allow other countries as well as the US to provide long range, offensive military capabilities to the Ukrainians and really hurt Russia. Doesn't want to have to do it. It might escalate. We don't know if it's going to turn into a nuclear war. I don't think it will. But I also think that if Putin was backed into a corner and he has nothing else to lose, then that becomes a possibility where he does detonate something small and take out a city like Kyiv.
Let me interrupt. I'm not going to agree or disagree with either of you, but go on to Men's point. Trump must be saying, "Where's the EU right now?" And that's the question the whole world needs to be asking themselves is where's the EU's panic in this? So to Trump, why should he have the same panic? Why should he have panic about the situation go on if they're not panicking? And Trump's going to have to make that decision. Rubio's going to have to make that decision. Vance, whoever. Do we just step back and say, go at it?
Well, I think, first of all, it feels a little bit like Trump is panicking. And there's one quote in particular that struck me. And he said this now a couple of times, but he repeated it, which is, "This isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war." basically what he's doing, and maybe it's really smart, but it does feel like he understands this is going to fail. And if it fails, he wants it not to be on him. So he's preemptively saying, hey, this wasn't my fault, guys.
I
This belongs to other people. And that
I
feels a little
disagree.
cowardly to me.
Okay, so let me jump in. I'm sorry for interrupting, but let me
No,
jump
I
in
would
on
like
that.
you to. Tell me what I'm missing. Again,
What we're missing is that for the last 4 years under the Biden administration, the mantra was to the last man, we will help Ukraine defend this till the last Ukrainian is standing. And that is where we're headed. The Ukrainians are losing men faster and they can't replace them as fast as the Russians. So it will come to the last man. What we should have done, what should have been done was have these negotiations 4 years ago. Hey, Russia, let's sit down. But they didn't do that. The only thing they said was we will give them unlimited supplies, which wasn't actually unlimited. It was very limited. It didn't let them gain ground. And we're going to continue punishing Russia until they pull out of all Ukrainian territory. That was unreasonable. The same administration that agreed to allow Russia to take the regions that were taken in 2014 under Biden, and then came out and said it depends how much they take, what our response will be. These are the same people that then said, we're not going to negotiate. We're not going to talk to them. We're going to force them to come to the table by bombing the crap out of them and giving Ukraine everything they wanted. We should have been talking to them a good 4 years ago and say, hey, how do we end this conflict? Not trying to vilify them. I think if Trump really wanted to make a statement, he'd come out and say, hey, NATO, you guys haven't been paying up. We're going to pull out of NATO. Hey, Russia, if we pull out of NATO, will you then pull out of Ukraine? Will you back off? And if he does, pulling out of NATO doesn't mean that we can't help defend those countries. That just means that we don't have to send our boys and girls over there if one of those countries is attacked. And a lot of those countries have been very provocative. On top of that, the Europeans are buying all the Russian energy. They've been funding this war. Stop buying that energy. If you really care about it, stop buying the energy. In fact, in 2016, when Trump told them to stop buying their energy and make alternate plans, they laughed at him and they walked out on him in the UN. The Germans were giggling as they walked out. What are we saying here? We're going to blame Trump for the way this thing is going? The guy's been right consistently on this topic since day one. So where do you go from here?
so first of all, I want to be clear. I think we could have avoided additional war. I think you're absolutely right that these talks should have happened earlier. That's not what I'm arguing. America under Biden chose moral vanity over strategic diplomacy, and that's a mistake. Okay. The idea that he said to the last man was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Diplomatically, politically, strategically, it made no sense because there was no off ramp. And I agree with you 100% on that front. I am not blaming Trump for this war. This war didn't start under him. In fact, Trump is the one where they skipped him, right? It went under Obama, it went under Biden, and now it's continuing. He has inherited this war. So I'm not blaming him. What I am saying is I want to understand the tactics that he's using when he is blasting Zelensky as he did in his post, when he is going to Putin and saying, I'm really disappointed in you, which is what he actually said. Those are his words. And then he said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks and then we'll see if you really mean it. Well, first of all, the last time Putin said, I'm going to do a 1 day, I don't remember what the day, it was some holiday, a 1 day ceasefire. And then he dropped bombs. Then he's in the middle of a negotiation with Trump. And he dropped the most amount of bombs he's dropped since the war started. And then in 2 weeks, what's going to happen? There's no real threat on the line. So that's first of all. Second of all, I think you are absolutely right about Europe and the purchasing of Russian oil and all the rest, but not only Europe, China. Many people missed this story because somehow media, it disappeared in about 2 seconds. But last month, the very first Chinese Europe Russian freight train, the railway was finally built. Do you know about this? Bound from Moscow to Russia. It was the first time it's ever happened. 9,000 kilometers in 16 days. And it can ship everything from natural gas and everything in between. So now they don't have to worry about shipping. They don't have to worry about air. There is a direct line and it goes through Europe. This is going to be a problem because Russia doesn't have to worry about sanctions if they're just shipping the ship through on a train that they have finished and is operational right now. You can look it up. So I think
Okay,
you're absolutely right. And that is what Trump should be targeting.
great points, both of you. I think it's extremely important to remember that, as Mend brought up with diplomacy, the stupidest thing we did was shut down the embassies immediately, because immediately that was a message that we're not going to handle this diplomatically. And secondly, Trump insinuated this the other day because he has had a relationship with Putin, that something's gone amiss with Putin. And I don't know, and I don't think Trump realized what he was getting into necessarily this time around when he promised he was going to end it right away, that there might be a real mental decline with Vladimir Putin. I don't think you do what Putin did if you're not in a mental decline.
For anyone that thinks that Putin is the crazy one in the room, he's got a whole bunch of generals that want to go balls to the wall on this thing, and he might be moderating them a bit. So to say that he's losing his marbles, that's all wrong. I think it absolutely makes sense with
That's what
everything.
Trump said. I'm quoting Trump.
I get that. And I get that. And I think it makes sense because when you have the biggest stick, when you have it, you don't need to flaunt it. And what Trump's saying is, I've been fighting with my guys to hold them back for you, and I'm giving you an off ramp, and you're not taking it. And then you do this bombs. I think you lost your mind because if you know that you could hurt him and he knows Trump knows he could hurt him and he's going to start pulling those levers. But I think he wanted to give diplomacy a chance. And he did a fantastic effort trying to end this thing and trying to do it in the best possible way. I am not advocating for anything on the Russian side. I think they are wrong to have started this war. But if you want to end this war, this is where it's at. And Trump's policy and what he's been saying absolutely falls in line with that. That's what he's saying. I've been holding everybody back from doing what they want me to do to you. And I've been restraining everybody from going all out on you. And this is how you repay me. You attack them with the most drones and missiles on a single day. Have you lost your mind? Does it make sense? I think that makes sense. I think that's the best take on it.
I think this isn't the only place where I am feeling like he is being weak. I'm watching him do this now with Putin, and I'm watching him do a similar thing with Iran. The Iranian thing, I think, is even more egregious.
I really think, Golan, there is a major war and struggle going on within the Republican Party. And just like Mend brought up, who Putin has to deal with, Trump is facing that same exact power struggle within his own party. And I don't blame Trump for, listen, I think Trump has done wonderful things in the Middle East. Defend him 100%, his track record so far, 100%. But I think this is coming from a power struggle. And I don't want to spread a rumor, conjecture. Golan, I don't know else to explain this.
You might be right. And if that is the case, it's his own doing because he put Vance in the VP slot, and Vance is isolationist to a point that I'm not comfortable with. Yes, sure, there's always going to be disagreements. As you just said, there can be conservatives that all have different opinions, unlike the liberals who march in lockstep on a regular basis. So, okay, there's a very distinct possibility that that's the reason why there's all this wishy-washy, non-committal stuff happening. But he started off in his first term putting the Abraham Accords in place. His Abraham Accords were, as we discussed a number of episodes ago, carrot and stick. It had to do with peace through strength, right? You're going to do what I want you to do. And if you do it, I'm going to hook you up. But first and foremost, you got to know what I want, because I am the one, as Mend said, I'm the one with the big stick. So you got to listen first. And then I'm happy to pat you on the head as a result. Now he's doing this thing where he almost sounds a little Biden-y. I'm going to deal with these monsters. Obama-y, I'm going to deal with these people. You don't deal with monsters. You replace monsters if they can't stop being monstrous, right? But right now, it feels like he's flirting with appeasement. And that's the thing that he specifically called out. He said this is the wrong way to go when the initial JCPOA was put in place. Now he's open
Explain
to
to
talk
people
with,
what that is.
basically, this is Obama's deal with Iran to have a path to nuclear disarmament, but not really, because in a handful of years, you're going to be able to be let off the leash. And in the meantime, you're going to secretly continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to be able to use, I'm paraphrasing in my own opinion, of course, but you're going to be able to use nuclear for energy, even though you're the most oil-rich country in the world. then you clearly don't need it. So obviously you're lying. That's what the JCPOA is, okay, in my own words. And it feels like he's once again talking in the same way to the Iranians. It's not peace through strength, it's peace through surrender. And it's killing me because you cannot appease tyrants. You can't negotiate with a terrorist regime. That's who these people are. You crush terrorists economically, you crush them politically, you crush them morally, you crush them to the point that they can't stand up. What happened today and yesterday that made this even more egregious? All of Iran, the people, and by the way, the Persians, the Iranians are great people. They are not the Ayatollahs, they are not the mullahs. The people have come out in droves. Guess what you haven't heard about? You haven't heard about trucker protests. Over 200 cities. The truckers of Iran are striking. They're risking everything. We're talking about regular people. These are not soldiers. And we can pretend it's because of inflation. We can pretend about all these other things. But ultimately, they want the Ayatollahs gone too. It's not about gas. It's not about pay. They're saying enough is enough. These are the people that are anti-Islamist. You want another one? Jafar Panahi is the filmmaker, the Iranian filmmaker who just won the Cannes Film Festival. Now, why is that significant? Because he is anti-regime. He is anti-Ayatollah. And he's been under house arrest. As a result, he finally was let out. He made another film and it won at Cannes. He came back and guess what happened? He showed up. First of all, he came back to Iran. That's significant because he might get thrown right back into arrest or who knows what might happen to him. The people, the citizens of Iran, all the people that are under the thumb of the Ayatollah cheered him on like a homecoming hero. They were cheering him on, not the regime. The world has already moved on past the Ayatollahs. All we have to do is catch up. And Trump, having these negotiations in the way that he's doing and feeling this appeasement and all the rest, I want it to stop. And I want him to listen to the letter that he received from the exiled crown prince, Reza Pahlavi, that said, the Iranian people are your ally. The Islamic Republic is your enemy. That's it. That's the truth. And that's the clarity we need.
Listen, Golan, I really appreciate your passion. And to the people that are listening, this is a passionate subject for a lot of us, and it shouldn't just be for Jews, it should be for Christians, and it should be for Americans. I'm not sure how this became a Jewish issue, just simply because Israel is in that region. This is a world issue of Iran and the mullahs and the ayatollahs being the biggest state sponsors of terrorism, and the chances of them getting a nuclear weapon should frighten everybody. The problem is nobody owns a globe and nobody has a map. But I want to get the one place I'll disagree with you, and I'll go to Mend on this one is I thought Trump handled it extremely well today in his response of how we talked about Bibi. He simply said, I had a conversation with him and I said it was inappropriate. I could think of a far worse responses that Trump has given in the Oval Office to the South African, to the Canadian. I thought it was as respectful as he could be, Mend. And I also think he's been extremely giving Israel as much space as they need to do the job in Gaza.
There's a couple of things to unpack, but first I'd like to agree with Golan. The people of Iran, my Iranian friends, are some of the nicest people I've ever encountered. What we learned about Syria after the collapse of the government was that it was a house of cards. It was all bullshit. And we also learned that the average Syrian is destitute. They're all super poor. That country has been ravaged by the sanctions that were imposed upon it because of their terroristic activity over the past several decades. So the same thing is actually taking place in Iran. The people, the Persians, are they're really being hurt by the regime, and they do want to overthrow the regime. There was an opportunity during the Arab Spring or the Masa Amini protests where we thought something could be done. Obama at the time did not support the protests. He didn't even make a public statement about it because he didn't want it to be turned into an American regime change thing and just let them do their thing, and it petered out. Back to the JCPOA, that agreement allowed the Iranians, and this is the biggest component of that agreement, it allowed them to continue enriching uranium on their soil. And when they do that, they are gaining that knowledge that they could use to get up to weapons grade uranium. Part of this agreement that Trump is trying to implement would block them. They would not be allowed to enrich uranium domestically. And if we could do that, it's a deal that is worth having. Um, let's be clear that if we go to war to knock them out, there's going to be a lot of casualties on the globe. A lot of humans will die if it's got to be done militarily. So that's not just, the flick of a switch and we should just say, oh, bombs away. I think there's a great argument to be made to exhaust all efforts diplomatically, but honest efforts, not the JCPOA efforts where it just kicked the can down the road. It let them gain that knowledge. It let them gain all that expertise. And secretly, they were enriching uranium at other sites, and we weren't allowed to go visit them. I mean, there was so much wrong with that deal. The biggest thing that was wrong with it was giving them a deal means lifting sanctions, which then opens up billions of dollars for their economy, which then further allows them to invest in this program we're trying to get them to stop investing in. So that's part of it. And then when we talk about, is this going well? Is it not going well? Whether or not it's going well, we don't know. We're going to know when they have something to announce. In the meantime, the only thing we do know is that the Iranians are stalling for time. They are buying time right now. That we know for sure. They're going to exhaust this effort and either walk out and say, look, we have a deal. We're allowed to inspect all sites. They're going to remove all uranium enrichment facilities from the Iranian soil. And we're going to have a third-party country, provide them with low-grade enriched uranium for their electricity reactor. Great. And if not, we go to war. As far as Trump saying that it would not be a good time to bomb Iran while the U.S. is in negotiations with them, is the correct take. If I was the guy that was sitting down, if I was the American president sitting down and negotiating with this foreign country that's been hostile, that my ally wants to bomb, I would tell the ally not to. Does that mean that they're not going to? I don't think so. Does that mean that it's not a psyop, that they're just saying that they had to say that to convince the Iranians that the Israelis are on the trigger finger and they are itching like crazy and we're trying to talk them off? It could be. We don't know.
Okay, well said, both of you. I think Men brought up the best point, which was the whole point of really this show, is to negate rumors and to take rumors out of the equation. So to his point, which I think has extreme amounts of merit to it, let's wait. We have to go on Trump's track record in that region, and even though he's doing things that do not make sense to us right now, they made a lot of sense when he did them 8 years ago. So I got to go on the track record of his past, and let's see, time will tell. And I do not think Trump will ever allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon and offer them a bad deal. So I think both of your
I'll just
takes.
say one thing, which is Iran right now has uranium that is enriched to 60%. They are holding that line because they can hold that line while still saying, no, no, it's not, it's all peaceful intent. But they're one screw away, one turn of the screw away from getting to 90%, which is what they need. And that can take days. It doesn't take months, it doesn't take weeks, it takes days. And that to me is the scariest thing. I think that you've got a lot of great takes on that, Mend, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And I don't disagree that he should have told Israel to sit down. I think maybe he shouldn't have done it publicly, but I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I am just worried. And to your point, Judah, you're right. I'm worried, but I'm worried about what could happen. I'm worried about the rumor, and we do need to hold the line until we know what's really going on. I just want to make sure everyone's informed as we do.
And I want to get back to the point I brought up. We all are a little fearful of the isolationists in the party. I think that's where the worries are coming from, man, with this subject is the JD Vance, the Donald Trump Jr., that wing of the party worries many of us. Worries me as an American, okay? Not just as a Jew, not as a Zionist. It worries me as an American, this isolationist faction of the party. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's where I really think a lot of this worry is coming from.
So JD Vance is his basic take from what I get, and that guy is brilliant, articulate. You hear him talk and give his long form interviews. It's just mind blowing how
A
on
hundred
point he
percent,
is.
100%.
He's He's a rock star. And I think Trump actually absolutely did the right move by picking someone as bright, intelligent, and young. I mean, the guy's got a whole career ahead of him. So what a rock star he picked for that guy. And his take is more of let's stop being the world sucker. When he got exposed by the signal files, where he said, "Why are we bailing out Europe again?" That was a truth. It may not be comfortable for most people to hear, but the majority of the cargo that goes through the Suez Canal, which the Houthis were bombing, goes to Europe. Why are we the ones footing the bill and patrolling those waters and taking care of all that stuff? And he's looking at that stuff saying, why are we the ones being Uncle Sucker? Let's stop doing that.
Good take on it. I want to end with a couple of fun stories because Golan, I think it's absolutely incredible. Two discoveries that Israel is working on and has come up with. And for people not familiar, I just want to say there was a great television show on sci-fi. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called Eureka. And it was a town that was set up by Truman and Einstein to let scientists work in peace and come up with amazing discoveries. And I often at times think of Israel as that little town that comes up with amazing discoveries. And they came up with a discovery, Golan, that can predict 90% of lightning strikes that also cause wildfires. And they have come up with a certain patch that stops bleeding by up to 40%, saving lives of people when they bleed out. Two things, and I find it just to be an amazing story.
Well, let's keep going because that's not all. Israeli scientists have built a device that allows dogs to smell cancer. That's interesting. They're pulling drinking water out of thin air. You know, the Iron Dome has been stopping rockets, but there's also now an Iron Dome that will stop forest fires and will stop farm fires. But with AI, we'll figure it out, similar to the lightning thing. The Israelis are literally turning roads into power plants. They have an invention that basically takes the centrifugal force of a tire hitting a road and gathers the energy into a battery under the road and then powers the towns near the road. I could do this all day because the Israeli inventions are basically nonstop. Like you mentioned, it's not just startup nation. It's they've got more Nobel Prizes per capita than any country on earth. People want to boycott that country. It's like, forget fighting injustice. They're fighting innovation. They're fighting science. They're fighting the brain of the world. Israel's saving the world. The world wants it gone. Only idiots think that makes sense. Okay. You want to cancel Israel. You're basically canceling your own future.
Well said, men. Final thoughts on that?
It's true. Listen, it's Startup Nation. Dan Senor's book lays it out, and that was done something like 10 years ago. He also has an excellent podcast, by the way. But I don't think that we can continue to tout the number of Nobel Prizes that Israel has won, just because we're seeing the insanity that's going on in the bodies that pick these things. You look at the Pulitzer Prize that went to a Hamas supporter and a guy who cheered on October 7th. So these institutions themselves are infected and they're all woke. So all those things that we love to laud are going to be gone soon.
Yeah, the
And
DEI, it's
it's
and all
DEI.
that stuff. I just want to end with a quick question to both of you because we're all praying Trump is right. We're all praying Trump is correct in everything he's doing. Golan, how do you see? Because the reality is the United Nations doesn't work. Who will be the inspectors? Who will be the trusted body of group? Because that's something Trump really needs to start working on. Who is a group that we could trust in Iran, in Russia, in all these different places where war or famine is going on, as Men loves to bring up with Darfur, and I'm happy he does. With Gaza aid, getting the truth out. We need to come up with a new body go on.
Forget the moral failings. Forget the fact that they've been useless. Forget the fact that their employees have been involved with rape and murder and everything else. It's a body that just serves no function anymore, if it ever did, really. At a certain point, we as Americans have to say, if we truly are the world superpower, which we are, if we truly are the ones, to go back to men's metaphor, with the big stick, this has to be something that we control, that we organize, and that we set the rules for, because enough is enough already of all of these bad actors being allowed in and being allowed to vote right alongside everybody. It's dangerous. And it's not just them, the NGOs out there like Amnesty International, like the Red Cross, like Human Rights Watch, and I could give about 50 of them that are
Hey,
all absolute trash.
Amnesty International defended Israel today. First time to charm.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you, Amnesty International. But I want to go
No,
to
no, no,
Mend
no,
on
no,
this.
no, 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 no. God blessing Amnesty
I said
International.
on
I
one
was going to
day,
say,
one moment, one
Zero,
moment. Okay, zero.
zero.
can
Okay,
we
you
They
got
can
it.
I just point
described
out
they
can I just point out here's what Amnesty International was praising. They were saying, oh, the food was being handed out. By the way, one site, over 200,000 meals, and that's including when the Palestinians tried to break in and steal everything, which was, oh man, they paper. Speaking of the media, they papered that everywhere. Right, the Hamas next, and I mean, sorry, the Gazans in this case are coming in and they are ransacking the place. And they kept saying the U.S. Israeli place, the U.S. Israeli place. Well, guess what happened less than 24 hours later? They ransacked another place. This one was a Hamas warehouse, also used to be a UN warehouse. Oops. Guess what it was full of? More food than the U.S. Israeli warehouse. They've been hoarding it. It is proof positive that they've been receiving all of the aid and been holding it back from their people in specifically in order to make sure that they were starving their people. And as if that wasn't enough, the Hamas leader, Osama Hamdan, came out today and said, and I quote, "It is better for our people to starve than to take aid from Israel. We will endure it." He said, I spoke to Yahya Sinwar and said, what if we lose 10,000? And he said, I'm okay losing 100,000, as if we didn't know that they were killing their own people. So this is what Amnesty International is going to come out against. The obvious stuff. Thanks.
Okay,
But no
I take
thanks.
it back, guys. I will never give credit to Amnesty International. So, Mend, let's just finish it with this. We can't trust Doctors Without Borders. We can't trust the UN. We can't trust the Red Cross. We can't trust anybody. What do we do? You are an extremely intelligent, innovative person, probably one of the most innovative people I've ever met in my life. How do we build that?
I have a full confidence that the Trump administration will put together a team that will be able to go in there and inspect and figure out where the Iranians are hiding their stuff and hold them to task. You know, the hard part isn't the inspections, because that's just a cat and mouse game. And with the Israeli intelligence that's on the ground, I mean, they were able to blow up the leader of Hamas inside of a compound in the middle of Tehran. The bomb was planted there while they were building the place. I mean, they're so embedded in Iran, they know what's going on. So the enforcement is not going to be the problem. The problem is getting them to agree. Because once you get them to agree and then they break it, they know they're fucked. They know that we're going to hit them hard. So the enforcement is not something to be worried about. I think there's enough really bright people out there and there's enough intelligence on that place that we'll be able to enforce it.
Yeah, I was asking the bigger picture, but we could get into that for another day because I just think there really needs to be a new body that obviously, like I brought up, it became the League of Nations, the United Nations. It no longer works.
I will say,
We
you know
need,
what? I'll answer the question in one sentence, which is obviously we have to dismantle the old, we have to withdraw from all the bullshit, the UNRWAs and the WHOs and everything else. And what we have to do is we have to build a coalition of democracies and US allies, nations that are committed to actual human rights, actual rule of law, actual non aggression. We're talking about Israel, of course, India, Japan, Australia, Taiwan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to hold people back because it's not politically convenient, like Taiwan's not allowed in there and all the other stuff. We're going to bring together the good guys. It's like, it's not that fucking hard. Leave the bad guys out in the cold, get the good guys together, make it a strong coalition, and then police the world in that way without it being something where we have to constantly sending troops, constantly saying that we don't have to do that. If we have the proper coalition, then we have something strong that is built together. It's what NATO should be and really isn't.
on that note, I want to thank the people that have been listening, the people that have been subscribing. on Apple, on Spotify. We're up on Amazon right now. So go to our Substack, go everywhere, find us, and give us that 5-star review, even if you don't like us. If you think it's a B plus, go for the A minus, which is 5 stars. Help us out as much as you need. And to the Pap smear out there, we love you. And on that note, God bless you all. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.